Frozen 2 is the long-awaited follow-up to the mega hit Frozen, which has survived on Kids and Parents, keeping the film and its songs like Let It Go on perpetual loop. Chris Buck and Jennifer Lee return to direct this sequel, which follows an older Elsa and Anna on a quest to save Arendelle and discover the source of Elsa's icy powers. Olaf, Kristoff, and Sven also return to lend their services to a sequel that has grown up with its audience. What made the first Frozen so memorable is in how it flipped the conventions and tropes of fairy tales, in addition to reworking Hans Christian Andersen's The Snow Queen for a modern audience, with the prime example being a subversion of the true love trope, where the prince typically kisses the princess and breaks whatever spell is binding her to torment. Instead, the true love of sisters Elsa and Anna conquers the spell, satisfyingly doing away with an old outdated trope. Frozen 2 continues the precedent of subversion from the first film, with a large focus on confronting fear and the past. The sisterly love shared between Elsa and Anna is once again at the heart of the story. However, a slightly more mature approach guides the sisters into growing into their respective selves, and maintaining their togetherness even when they're separated. Frozen 2 continues to refreshingly move away from fairy tale tropes by removing any traditional portrayal of any typical fairy tale villain. In the first Frozen, Elsa was the misunderstood villain before Hans came forward as the true villain of that story. In Frozen 2, the closest thing to a villain is the past itself, and trying to overcome the errors of past generations. As a result, the film gets a lot more darker than I was expecting, at least for a Disney animated film, and especially for something as popular as Frozen. However, Frozen 2 winds up being wonderfully progressive in a way that isn't trying to force feed its message. The characters and story benefit from those more mature and darker themes. However, the characters are still, as they should be, the main focus of the film. Frozen 2 expands the world beyond Arendelle, taking us to forests and faraway islands containing secrets about Elsa and Anna's parents. We get to see many new creatures and people of the world, with many having their roots in Scandinavian folklore. This allows the animators to go really wild with different color palettes and styles, opting for a beautiful autumnal feel that is perfect for this time of the year in the Northern Hemisphere as people approach the tail end of autumn or fall. It can't be understated how impressive Frozen 2 looks and sounds. The movie is gorgeous. From individual pebbles and snowflakes to strands of hair, everything looks incredible. Not quite at the same level as anything released by Pixar, and that's fine. This is all stylized in the current Disney art style that has existed since Tangled. There is an emphasis this time on big, technically impressive set pieces that meaningfully highlight different elements like fire and water wonderfully. The water simulations and physics in Frozen 2 are jaw-dropping. Every time there's a big set piece or complicated sequence involving water, I couldn't help imagine how much money was spent on having everything look and sound so immaculately. On top of that, you've got all the big songs and musical numbers that people come to expect from Disney movies, and Frozen in particular. And while I wouldn't say any of the songs are quite as memorable as, say, Let It Go, there are some nice entertaining pieces here, like Into the Unknown and Some Things Never Change. I also did really enjoy the big 80s love rock ballad that Kristoff gets to belt out, kind of in the style of one of Queen's music videos, that I thought was absolutely hilarious and really entertaining. What I also appreciated is how much Olaf has been toned down in Frozen 2. He's a bit more mature now, although he still acts as the random comic relief, but his jokes are a little more thought out this time around, and as a result I found him to be far less annoying than he was in the first film. Frozen 2 does get held back. Many things in the story are heavily telegraphed early on, and the film will hammer away references to a dam or certain details about Elsa and Anna's parents, just to make sure that you know that they'll come into play later on in the film. I get that the film is for kids, and Disney wants to make sure that they know what's happening, but there's a point where it's just pandering and over-explaining plot points. Despite this though, I really enjoyed the more complex, darker development and progression of Elsa and Anna as they mature and discover themselves. It might not have the driving personal hook of the first Frozen, having two sisters at odds with each other, but the emotional element in play is far more in depth with Frozen 2, with a driving message against hate and fear. And don't forget, there are some fun Easter eggs to look out for, and an adorable post-credit scene, so don't miss them. I personally believe that Frozen 2 is a better film than the first. There's a lot more happening with the characters emotionally and thematically, in a sense that progresses the franchise from its more simplified structure in the first movie. Of course, some people are going to disagree with that, but if you want a charming, family-friendly adventure with some great progressive messages, you could do far worse than Frozen 2. Frozen 2 gets a 7.8 out of 10 from me. Guys, I hope you like this review. If you want to see more reviews just like this one, stay right here for your Monofix. Bye guys.